Guys, the internet is fine. I don't know what happened that the connection just drops for some reason. So we'll just do this again and hope that doesn't really bother us. Okay, I'm just gonna switch a little bit of my see. Yeah, so I don't know what happened because it was just going fine and it just dropped. So I hope that this doesn't happen again, and we'll just bring her Dr. Annie again back so that we can continue from here. Sorry, I'm so sorry. It just dropped off. The internet is working fine. So, yes, I don't know why, because I've not had this issue the whole week. So, I just hope that this doesn't happen again.
Hi.
Yes.
Yes, we live in a village just a couple of
Okay.
miles outside of town, and I don't know whether that combination with our internet being a little bit weak just fits with yours and produces a
Yeah, I
less than
know.
ideal result.
Yeah, I know, because I've not had issues since I changed the internet a couple of
Mm-hmm.
days ago with
Right.
anybody. So I just hope it goes fine. If not, I'll just move the modem more closer, because it's
Mm-hmm.
just fine right now where it is and it's working. Anyway, let's get back to where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody asked a question before we went off, and that was, what if my son 18 years old? Uh, how can I tell if he's can I tell if he's a narcissist?
Um, I would say it was probably too young. I really would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Greetings from France. Hello, how are you? Okay. What what would you tell? How can, like, when you're working in a work environment, isn't it hard to detect if your boss or your coworker or somebody is a narcissist, or then again it's the same thing that you're looking for?
It is the same thing. I mean, if your boss is a narcissist, the only person who's going to make use of that information is you, really. It's not going to help you in an industrial tribunal, I wouldn't have thought.
Mm.
But if your boss or a co-worker is problematic, I would have thought that that would come under the label of bullying. And if they are bullying, then
Mm.
I don't know how it is where you are, but in my country, there's lots of forces, there are lots of legal protections that you can fall back on.
Oh yeah,
And
nothing
there's
here. I
also
don't think so.
oh dear, then it gets
Yeah,
hard. Yes,
yeah.
there is a very
Mm.
good book by a friend of mine whose name is Ariane Ode. I'll write that down. And that's
Mm.
called Free Yourself from Workplace Bullies, which is a really helpful book.
Okay.
It's full of role play and other
Mm-hmm.
interesting resources. So I'm just trying to write this down at the same time as I'm talking.
Okay. Right, right. I was yesterday talking to someone online, and this was one of the questions we were talking about, is that where I'm from, Pakistan, one of the biggest challenges for me, I think, would be bringing this awareness about narcissist disorder, because I don't think knows it. And a
Yeah,
generation before me is probably won't understand and think that I'm crazy or something.
yeah.
So for me, it's going to be really challenging, because even online, when I read your posts, I read a lot of people write out there that, we didn't know about it till we encountered it ourselves.
Yeah, sure.
So So it's really surprising, though so much information out there, yet people still don't know, experience it themselves.
Yeah, I think that's true here. But here, here I think we have a slightly more aware culture in that respect. I mean, if I'm speaking out of turn, please
No,
bring
no,
it
you're
to my
fine. Yes.
attention. But I think that you live in a much more male supremacy culture. So,
That just
so
perfectly
it's,
right.
yes, well, so it's kind of really difficult in that kind of culture to even unpick what is just normal male chauvinism, what is just habitual male chauvinism that's been around for God knows how long, and what is really off behavior. And, you know, it's a culture that actually enables narcissism. I'm not
Yes.
saying that our country, my country, limits narcissism. It absolutely doesn't. If you take a look at our Prime Minister, you might notice that he's a tad narcissistic, and most people don't see it. And then you've got another one in the White House. But, but nevertheless, we have a perception that there are limits to what is acceptable male behaviour, and I think the limits are set rather high where you are from what little I know.
Yes. Yes. No, no, you are totally, totally right. Because over here, that's what I was talking yesterday as well. Society, in our culture, it's it's acceptable for a man to get away with anything. You know, he can hit a woman, and oh, you might have provoked him. He can verbally abuse. Oh, verbally abuse you. What is verbal? It's okay, you know. And all his bad actions, and somehow the woman is always wrong. So in
Yeah.
that kind of society, you know, you're giving him so much your superiority already, that you're asking for trouble. And that's what I was also thinking
Yeah.
myself, that I think it's more obvious in my society because of these issues, underlying issues, because of men being having the upper hand in everything here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, society is much more tolerant of bad domestic behaviour,
Right. Right.
I
Now,
think. Mm.
do you think that narcissists know that they're narcissists, or they don't?
Um, I'm just trying to think. First of all, it's not an area that they would bother to research. But if they if they sort of looked at people who are narcissists and thought, yeah, I'm like them, and these were people in positions of authority or some kind of stature, they would not find it objectionable. They just go, oh, some of us are superior. I think that from my experience, they tend to see who they are and what they do differently as a badge of honor. You know,
Oh,
they will just explain to you they are better than other people.
yeah.
So it's not a problem for them. My ex would tell me at great lengths how he was better than all of his colleagues. Mm. Yeah. As Fenwick the cat says, successful
Interesting.
narcs revel in it. They absolutely do. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So so I wanted to know, what are, like, somebody asked me yesterday, and I really couldn't properly pinpoint or say explain it well. What are the main traits of a narcissist? Because for me, I just said that they lack empathy. I think that's one of their biggest traits.
Mm.
How would you summarize it if you were to, in a few words, what is a narcissist, or, you know?
Well, I think that they they do regard themselves as superior. They are superior to you. I know you get the coverts who put themselves down and put you on a pedestal to begin with, but they
Mm,
actually revert to type and superiority later on, and
mm,
they're just as vile. But for me, one of the big things about narcissists is that they are quite happy to do harm, that the
mm,
end, which is whatever they want, justifies whatever means they employ. That to me is the biggie. Obviously, they lie, they're manipulative,
mm,
um, there are lots of things, but for me, the first thing is really
mm,
this carelessness of other people, coupled with the lies and the twisting of the truth. You've got to, and this sort of thing about I am some kind of a hero. You've got a pretty powerful combination there.
mm.
You
Yeah,
know, even
that's
when they're
true.
victims, they're heroic victims.
Mm,
Yep. Someone's saying
rightly said.
controlling. Yep, they are absolutely
Yeah.
controlling. But I think you pick up on the controlling a little bit further down the line.
Yes, that's what I heard when I was talking to I've talked to a couple of survivors on, and
Yeah,
one of the things that was common was this thing that, they picked this later that they were controlling. It didn't
yeah.
come to them in the beginning.
Yes,
So, so,
absolutely.
so one and two other things that I wanted you to talk about was gaslighting and their silent treatment. Uh, these are also one of their traits.
Yes, they are. Yeah. So gaslighting is a really great technique that narcissists use. And it's this brilliant match of someone who is unduly trusting and untruly believing with someone who is uncommonly manipulative and dishonest. So, narcissists gaslight, which is they subvert your uh, perception of reality, they subvert your truth. And they can do this because they come out with the most outrageous lies about anything,
Mm,
and um, and you sort of go, oh, that's not how it seemed to me. Yes, that's exactly what happened. That was it, and you end up believing them because you think they wouldn't be that adamant about it if they weren't telling the truth, and then you end up totally losing your perception of reality.
mm, mm,
The silent treatment was my ex-husband's favorite, favorite
mm.
thing. He was trying to make it into an Olympic sport single-handed, I think, bless him. Um, and what happened was that things, the running of the home was never perfect. I'm a flawed human being. His supper would land on the table a little bit late, or I wouldn't answer in the perfect way to everything he said, or any old thing. And he would sort of mention it and drop it. And then there would be this moment when I was just minding my own business and he would stop talking to me. And he would stop
Mm,
talking to me for days. But I soon learned that there would be a fight at the end of it from him.
mm, mm,
Um, and I was left literally to stew in my own juices and wondering what the hell I had done wrong.
mm,
And it was amazing. It was very, very powerful because I suddenly didn't exist. That's so the silent treatment
mm,
disappears you totally. and leaves you to work out what it is that is so awful about you that you caused their behavior. And then you sort of have all this time, you go through a huge emotional turmoil because you have been emotionally abandoned by the person who is meant to love you the most in the world. And you don't know till you've been through it about 1,000 times that this is not forever. But they do this and do this to their own satisfaction until they get bored. And then they resolve it however they want to resolve it. And a not uncommon one after fighting or after the silent treatment is for them to suddenly act as if nothing had happened and say, "Do you want to have sex?" And then,
Yeah.
and if the result is, actually, no, I'd sooner poke a stick in my own eye, thank you very much, they can then add to your other faults that you're frigid. But they can use the silent treatment as a trigger for a fight, as a trigger for further humiliation, and it certainly is a very, very controlling way of reducing your power in the relationship. It's horrendous. It's very cruel,
It is.
and it is a playground tactic. Children do that all the time. Small children do that.
Okay.
And it's what they do. And it's cruel
Okay.
then. And children also say things like, "I was going to invite you to my party, but I can't now." And they do the same kind of thing. But it is incredibly cruel when it's done by an adult, and you have to assume it's always calculated. I thought initially it was a spontaneous reaction, but it's not. They choose their time and they do it to hurt you.
So sad. I was talking to someone just because we were talking about silent treatment, she was telling me this, that like you said, that she was always confused because, they're sitting together. I can just tell you one or two incidents that I remember on top of my head because I just spoke with her recently, and she said, we're sitting together and it's her side of the family. And the sister says something like, the sister jokes with her. So the sisters are basically joking around, and he would say something to put her down. And she said that what happened in that incident was that she said something back right away, but she didn't mean it in, like, it wasn't that bad like how he had said it. So she said it got over, everything was normal, we had dinner, we had a good time, we're laughing, he's joking with me. And it was in the morning, and at night they went to sleep, and they're in bed and she's sleeping, and he just pokes her and starts
Yeah,
abusing her.
yeah.
And she wakes up and she said, "What's going on? You just pushed me. I'm pregnant. Is everything okay?" Like, she said, I just got scared for a second because I was in deep sleep. That what's going on? And and she said he didn't explain why he was acting like that. He was just saying, "You this," and I don't even remember what she was telling me, but basically she was just saying he was just abusing her. You this and you that, and she was like, "We were just fine like half an hour ago or a while back before I fell asleep. You were joking with me, and
Yeah.
what just happened?" And she said he wouldn't answer me, and then he would be, "Oh, you want to run your mouth with me now? Is that what you're trying to do?" And she said that she felt so emotionally, like I was crying when I was listening, that she felt so alone emotionally,
Yeah.
like you said, she was confused because it took her a while before she said that. When I looked back, I said, "Oh, that could be the only thing that had triggered it. But why didn't he react the minute we came in the bedroom, or something like that? Why, when we were alone, he was totally okay, you know, talking to me, joking with me and stuff. The minute I fall asleep, eh, it's this whole thing would come out." And there were multiple story she told me like that, that it
Yeah.
was one day you'll just go, like you're saying, for supper or food or something, and he would be off. He wouldn't even say anything. She said he wouldn't even say, something. And
Mm.
she said she would go ask if you didn't like the food, or is it something I
Yeah.
did? And she said I would actually ask him, you just went like that, so is this something I did? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And she said she kept blaming herself, and she was, left alone because she kept saying how stupid I am, that I can't handle my own man. And so,
Mm.
so I mean, just saying it makes me sad. And the
Yeah.
person was going through it, because I never knew that silent treatment can be that that harmful, and
It's
how it's,
evil. Mm. It's evil. And what you said brings up a few things that are worth mentioning. That I think one of the ways that you know you're dealing with very unhealthy behavior is when you get this what just happened moment, when you're
oh,
just trying to
okay.
work out. Because with normal people, you shouldn't have this what just happened experience. You should kind of be able to know how you got from where you are to where you are next. Um,
Right.
Sleep deprivation, which this person mentioned, is a common feature of narcissistic abuse, that they deliberately wait till you've gone to sleep when you're
Oh,
at your most vulnerable. My
oh.
ex was a genius at this one. And then they wake you up and launch into a tirade. And the third piece, which fits with this, and which is really important, is you can't say that this was not calculated. It's not
Right.
fury, it's not uncontrollable fury, or they would have done it at the time. But actually, at the time, what he did was show everybody what a regular guy he was when he was with her family. He made himself look good, and he just popped it in his little narcissist mental money box for later to really punish her with at a time of his choosing. And whether what she said was the trigger, or whether he just resented having to be nice, or whatever it was, she'll never know. But they make you guess for an explanation. And then when they finally give you an explanation, it's one which somehow makes you the guilty person.
They're so evil.
They're horrible. They're really horrible.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just,
it's,
I don't have words to go further with the conversation, because just thinking like how
yeah.
calculated and how manipulative they are is just, they seem very dangerous.
They are very harmful, and it depends what level of harm that they want to do, just how dangerous they become. But the real thing is that there is this perfect fit between the narcissist and their prey, who people call the supply. And the narcissist is so devious and so dishonest and so nasty. And like you're describing with this person you're talking to, she's a nice person. She only wants to please. She only wants to do it right. She thinks the best of people. Her husband isn't speaking to her. She doesn't think, miserable bastard. She thinks, what have I done wrong? How can I make it right? So it is a perfect relationship for him. She is going to take a long time to get wise to him, because her whole mental map of the world is of good people who behave nicely, and who want to do their best and want to be loving, and that makes it very difficult for her to defend herself from that kind of person. That's why we all get sucked in and stay so long.
uh do you think that, I was speaking to someone, and she said she's been married a lot. And she said that it just gets worse with time. I mean, first is verbal and all that, but with time, they start getting physically abusive as well. What's your, uh, what would you say on that?
Well, I was with my um, I was with my ex-husband for over 20 years. He didn't get physically abusive, which I regard as a great gift, because I wouldn't have liked that one bit. But on the other hand, he knew that I might well have left him if he had. So I don't believe he didn't get physically abusive because he was better than that. I absolutely don't. But I do think that he knew that that was a watershed, and whether it was because he might have judged himself, his father could be violent, or whether it was because he thought it was taking a risk, I don't know. But the truth is that even without physical violence, the emotional violence got worse. And the longer you stay with someone, the level of damage that they do to your psyche gets worse and worse. They get even better. And as they keep repeating the kind of damage, it really breaks you up into smaller pieces every time. It's incredibly damaging. It is worse. And it reaches the point where they can just give you that look, and you're really literally quaking in your boots because you don't know what's going to happen, but you know something is. You know they will punish you. You know something bad is coming.
No. Wow, that's heavy.
It's
Uh,
very heavy.
I mean, talking and listening is, it's a lot. And I spoke with a girl. She was with this guy for 2 years, and he
Mm,
did get physical. And she said that, no, she is in USA, and she said that they are so smart with how they get physical, uh, because she said he would just twist her arm
mm,
just till the point where it would hurt, but there was no
mm,
physical evidence. And I was like,
yeah.
what the? You know?
Yes.
So she said, so she said it was very calculated because he
Yes.
always made sure there were no bruises or no signs on me.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's
Yes.
on top of the emotional thing, that thing also, it's it's
Yes. I knew
it's a lot.
someone, yeah, I knew someone whose husband used to beat her around the head because her hair would cover the bruises.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was how calculating he was.
Mm.
Yes, someone sent a message saying, is there any good way to leave a narcissist? And this is a really important question. Oh,
Mm.
sorry. There is no good way to leave a narcissist, or I rephrase that. Any way that you manage to leave a narcissist is a good way. Any way that you get out is a good way, but whether you can ever leave on good terms is really not something you should worry about because it's never going to happen. They are going
Mm.
to be well displeased that you are leaving them, not because they like you, but because you represent a convenience and you are rejecting their control. So they feel less powerful. Therefore, there will be no good ending to no harmonious ending to a narcissistic relationship. But any way that you get out of it has to be good for you. And
Mm.
it's really sad to look at your relationship and say, God, it's been a foul relationship, but perhaps we can sanitize it by having a good ending. That would be the ideal, that you could go
Mm.
walk away and say, well, I was a good person. I put up with a lot of bad stuff, but I managed to leave with my head held high, and there was a little bit of harmony about it. We consciously and gracefully uncoupled, and I can take that. But
Mm.
unfortunately, it's an ugly relationship and it will have an ugly ending. And you just have to say to yourself, this is what's happened. It does not impact on my human worth. Um, my human worth is all about who I am and the fact that I had the courage to get out. And it was ugly because it was going to be ugly.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's so basically even so do you think they can like say that the relationship is over or I want to divorce you or stuff like that? And in those scenarios, is it better?
Um,
Slightly, I guess.
I think there is no good way.
Okay.
If they go off, they will probably do it because they've decided they've got someone better, or it will be a total rejection, and that will be very humiliating. They will make sure it's very
Mm,
humiliating. If you reject them, that's a different kind of awful, and they may well come back, and mostly they do come back and have a second chance because they realize how much they love you and they're just going to make you happy, so they come back to use and destroy you again.
mm,
But certainly I have not heard one story of someone who's hideous narcissist goes off, comes back and truly loves them where it has worked out well. I did have
mm,
one client who, before I was working with her, her husband came back. He had been a man who saw other women, but they had a family business together, made a lot of money. She was the brains behind it. So he left his mistress, came back to her because he discovered how much he really loved her. He bought her a diamond as big as the Ritz, which she thought meant he cared about her, but it was actually a business investment. And it wasn't terribly long before she was back in the same place, except feeling a whole lot worse about herself.
mm. So financial abuse is also involved when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, right?
Well, let's put it this way. The
Mm,
narcissist works on the principle that everything you own is mine and everything I have is my own. So anything that you bring into the relationship and the marriage, they regard as their right to claim from you. Anything they have is clearly not yours.
mm,
I had one client, and her husband had made absolute fortunes. Fortunes. They had both come from fairly modest stock, and she was a teacher and a good teacher. That was her passion. And in terms of a
mhm,
salary, it didn't come, her annual salary didn't come near probably a week of her husband's earnings. And
mm,
when they eventually split, I think he found somebody else. And he spent a lot of time explaining to her why she wasn't a worthwhile person and she shouldn't have much of a settlement. And she didn't have very much at all. And something came up, and I heard that she wasn't even going to fight for 1.3 million
mm.
pounds, which was rightfully hers. I said,
Wow.
no, we don't do that. We
Right.
just don't. Um,
Right.
he's a very wealthy man, but he would have denied her everything.
Mm.
Mm.
Wow. So,
And
Dr. Annie, just want to say that the questions at my end are not popping up. So, if
right,
you could see any questions, please feel free to
thank
answer
you.
them.
Yes, I was going to. There's a suicide thread here.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
Yeah, and I totally get that. You reach a point when you're totally at the end of your rope. You have been told you're worthless, you're a waste of space, you can't make the relationship work, you don't think you can ever make your life work, and you just want the pain to end. So, suicide feels like the only way you're ever going to get out of the relationship. And I totally agree with someone who said that you can't commit suicide because if you have children, you are giving them a horrible, horrible heritage, making it incredibly hard for them to live their life. The children of suicides find it very, very difficult to cope with being the children of suicides. So that's one consideration. The other consideration, and I say this as someone who definitely belonged to the suicidal cohorts in my time, is that, you know, the best revenge, the only revenge, is to go on and have a good life. And it doesn't matter how lousy you feel when you're with a narcissist. When you're finally free, life is wonderful. Seriously, after my not my story, but generally, you may have financial problems, you may have problems of every kind, and yet being without that person who is, you know, injecting poison into your veins every day is such a lift. And someone's saying here that she has been strengthened by knowing her Father in heaven has given her peace. If you are religious, prayer is a great resource. So someone else is asking, how do you remove the guilt they put in you for leaving them? And it's a great question. It's hard not to feel responsible for them and to feel guilty about them. And the truth is that you need to be doing the work on you. You felt that you had to be this people pleaser, you had to rescue people, you had to serve people, you had to make their life all right. Since when? You have this tendency to feel guilt. That tendency has got you trapped in some very bad relationships. Therefore, you have to work with freeing yourself and actually, because guilt is part of feeling that you're not good enough as a person. If you feel good enough, you say, I don't like the choices that I was forced to make, but I was forced to make them because I had no choice. That was the best thing to do in the circumstances. And it is a grown person. It can look after itself or not, but that is its choice. Oh, yes. How do they stay in long-term relationships? Does he treat them better than he treated me, for example? The supply looks so happy online, constantly posing for pictures of him. Yes. Well, in the early days, he or she, whichever gender the narcissist is, may have an interest in looking like the good guy or the good girl. So, you know, if they are having this wonderful new relationship now, not only are they getting their ego massaged, all their needs met, but they're having the fun of humiliating the hell out of you because you're probably looking your absolute worst, feeling that you'll never get back on your feet, casting around for all the broken pieces of your life, wondering what you're going to do with the rest of your life. And there they are, you know, look at me, I'm so happy. So are they happy with the new person? They've got the thrill of the new, the bright, shiny object. Is the other person happy with them? Quite possibly for a short time. But you have to ask yourself who the hell this person is. I'm not saying that the new supply is not a nice person. The new supply may be a very nice person, but you don't know what the new supply has been through before. You don't know what their emotional damage is. So you don't know why it is that they're so grateful to have your cast-offs in their life. So I think, you know, nobody should take social media seriously, except obviously the educational pages. But you certainly shouldn't take seriously these photos of happy people smiling into the camera. And I know that I had plenty of photos with my ex and we were smiling into the camera, although the smile never reached my eyes. It's just for public consumption. So someone's
Yeah.
saying, my ex-narc snapped at me in the second week, so I don't think nobody enjoy a long love bombing stage with him. He may or may not lengthen the the time of his good behaviour with someone different, depending on what he feels he needs to do to get his hooks into the next person. But the end result's never going to be good unless she has shed loads of money and is keeping him on a tight rein, in which case he'll control himself better because they're calculating.
Right,
Yes.
right. Do you think somebody said, or I read somewhere, I'm not sure, that narcissists look for partners that make them look good? So is that true?
That's an interesting one. Uh, I think the various components to this. One is that narcissists will take the highest specification person that they can get at the time. It's like if you're buying a car and you had X amount of money and you was doing it just to impress other people, you'd probably get the flashiest car you could get. So there is that
Right.
consideration. And to that end, narcissists usually have, well, often have more than one target in mind. So that they're coming on to you and they could be coming on to two or three other people, seeing which one is likely to be the winner. You know, it's like if you're at a horse race, which I know nothing about, but you put bets on a few horses so you'll win one way or the other.
Wow.
In the end, they win by having someone. So even if you look at your replacement and go, I think you're actually a downgrade, and I think you're perfectly entitled to make that judgment if you've been, trashed by the person, the husband, the ex. For them, it's still a win because they've got someone. And someone said rightly that they are looking for the person that they can manipulate. So when they're sort of focusing on a few targets, there are various things they want to know. One is that the target is available, and the other is that the target is willing to engage and be initially molded and then manipulated by them. But they start running tests to see what you're like and how exploitable you are very early on in the relationship.
Oh, okay. Uh, I want you to clarify this thing because I read this online and I wanted to be sure on it. And it said that the studies show that there are more male narcissists than female.
That does seem to be the case. I think, cultural norms have possibly helped create that or helped support that. But there are some jolly good female narcissists around. They just operate a little differently. But on the whole, culture, on the whole, women just tend to be more giving, more loving. It just goes with the
Right,
territory.
right. And now let's say in a situation, hypothetically speaking, uh, you know that your husband is a narcissist and you have kids and you do separate. How do you bring it up to your kids and like how do you break that kind of news and how do you go about it with your kids?
Uh, I think with difficulty, the trouble with telling kids that your marriage is breaking down is that they will always assume that it's their fault.
Hmm.
And you say to them, it's got nothing to do with you. Daddy and I just really aren't getting on. It's not going to work. And we want you to have the best environment, or we'll both do our best for you, or whatever you come out with. And that may well not be what they hear. It's hard to explain to a child. It's always going to be a difficult situation, because either you try to explain and they have more information than they can process, and they really don't want to hear that one of their parents is a monster, even if they know that, or you
Hmm.
don't give them enough. I think you do the best you can, and you hold on to the belief that if children have one loving parent, ideally they'd have two, but if they have one loving parent, they can do just fine. So
Hmm.
it's damaging, it's incredibly damaging for children, but they can heal. They really can. I'm just looking at
Wow.
what is going on in the questions. Someone
Please,
said,
please do.
what's the best strategy for healing from narcissism? Someone replied, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is not, which is okay for some levels of healing. Pardon me, but my
Hmm.
approach is that there are various things you have to do when you heal from narcissistic abuse. You've got to find out how, you've got to manage to gain the awareness and separate from them. You really do. You've got to put back the pieces of your life. You've got a lot of practical things to do, like trying to find an income and a place to live, possibly, and sort of sorting out all the practicalities and the divorce. There's a huge amount to do there, which you need to encounter well. And you then, it comes down to you needing to unpick all the limiting beliefs about yourself that the narcissist has programmed into you. Because until you do that, you are at risk. The last thing you ever want to do is find yourself another narcissist. But
Hmm.
when you are very damaged, what you do is actually, what we all do is we kind of end up in a situation where we think it's like a game of patience, where you think, right, I need to resolve it this time. I need to get to the end of it. So this time, if I can make a relationship work, I'll resolve the wounds of the past. But you're not going to do it if you go back into a relationship with the same kind of person. And the thing is that until you've done your own healing, you will be attracted to the same kind of person. So if you had a very aggressive narcissist, you might go for someone who's quite shy and, passive on the surface. But there will still be powerful pulls. There will be this feeling of knowing the other person, feeling of familiarity and chemistry, which actually comes from the wounded place in yourself.
Hmm.
So I'm just
So
I'm just
somebody
looking
said
at that
that,
piece.
sorry, so somebody said that healing, I spoke with someone and she said that it takes you 2 years to heal.
Oh,
So give yourself 2 years to heal, or it takes 2 years.
sorry, but that's
So
sorry
do
that
you think,
that is a statement that annoys the hell out of me. That was said to me when I first went into recovery myself. I started my recovery in a women's domestic violence group. Um, and we sat there with this counsellor, and sort of the first question was, how long does it take to heal? And she said it takes 2 years to heal. And that is, to me, absolute nonsense, because healing relates to the healing work. Um,
hmm,
if you spend those 2 years feeling sorry for yourself and you don't understand how you're working, and if you don't heal your own wounds, then you don't heal. Yes, Tony is saying that she's learned so much in 2 years and she's still healing. Yes, time is not what heals abusive relationship. Learning to love yourself, learning healing modalities, learning how to deal with your own pain, learning how to defend yourself from dangerous people, learning how to relate to others, learning about boundaries. These are all parts of the healing process that you have to undertake. Right. And Tony Ball 16 is saying she's also done the Freedom Program. Well, that was with the wonderful Pat Craven, was it? Yes, there's a whole lot to healing, but in the end, you have to heal your heart, and you may well need help healing your heart. That's very much the kind of work that I do, because that's what I'm passionate about, so that you don't drag through the rest of your life with a wounded heart. People do, and that's just not on. Yes. Yeah.
They say if you don't heal, you would bleed on somebody else. So you
Well,
need to heal.
again, I find that quite facile. If you
Okay.
don't heal, you will be hemorrhaging, and you will find someone who will make you bleed even more. That's what I feel. I do find that offensive. If you don't heal, you'll bleed on other people. I mean, it kind of means that
Okay.
you're harming other people, doesn't it? I just don't
Right,
like it.
right. Yeah, it
Yes.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's you. If you don't heal, you will hemorrhage. Your life will be a mess, and you'll find other people who will suck your blood. I think I'll make a meme to that effect. Someone asked, do I know any organisation that helps single people with dealing with financial abuse? No, I don't. You'd have to do a Google search where you are. Yes, Tony Ball's saying learn a lot about boundaries. Yep, someone else is saying that they are enjoying time on their own and enjoying recent freedom. And it's been a lucky escape. It's always a lucky escape when you leave. Yes, so.
Okay. So now that we have, I want you to talk more about your books now. I do know that I went on your page and I got a free sample, one chapter to read, and I really liked it. I'm not
Which,
done through it yet. I think I got Mr. Nasty,
oh,
one
right,
of the chapters
yes,
from there on in my email. So I just
yes.
read like a few lines, and I was like, oh, I need a quiet place. So I'm just gonna wait and read it because I was like, oh, this looks interesting. So I want you to talk more about your books. I know you've written a couple of them, and what are they about? And just give a little bit information on that, please.
Well, I've got 3 on my page at recoverfromemotionalabuse.com. You can go there and download your free chapter from each of them. I was grinning like a banshee because the book that kills me is Do You Choose Your Dog More Carefully Than Your Husband? And that was the book that I wrote based on my own true story about realizing that I'd chosen my wonderful Shih Tzu, Sharon, far more carefully than I'd chosen my husband, and she was a much better life partner than he was. And he forced me to choose at one point. He said, "You've got to choose between me and the dog." And I looked at him and said, and I was terrified of him by then. But because I was so surprised, the words just landed from my mouth. Well, it's got to be the dog. And he stormed out of the room, slammed the door, and very likely didn't speak to me for 3 days. But the dog was not negotiable. So I That book is, I think, really rather a funny book, and that is about how you choose a partner carefully. That is about how, if you're going back into the dating world, you have to do things totally differently, and how you do it. And
Okay.
the sort of evidence, if you like it, is I spent 7 years single after I left my horrible husband, and then found a wonderful partner, a really wonderful partner. And we've been together for more than a decade, and he's still as wonderful as he ever was. He's just the most fabulous guy. So choosing your partner as carefully as you choose your pet really works. So that's, do you choose your dog more carefully than your husband? I can never
Okay.
say it without smiling. Then the first book I wrote about abuse recovery is The Woman You Want to Be. That, someone's saying Shih Tzus are the best, true. But The Woman You Want to Be is a book that I started writing itself one day, which is wonderful. I wish they all did. And it's, if you like, entry level healing, that if you are in a difficult place and you got no way of healing, but you need something, this is a book that will guide you through a year of self-growth. I really didn't say that well. This is a book that will guide you on a journey of healing over the course of a year, and it will direct you at every stage of the way. Nothing that you have to do is difficult. If you just do the little bit, the little repetitive bit that the book says each day, you will come to a very different place. You will find that a lot of your fears and anxieties will lift, and you'll feel much, much better about yourself. And Married to Mr. Nasty, you'll never guess who I thought of when I called it that. Gone, but not entirely forgotten. And
Right.
It's all about understanding the narcissist, understanding really abusive men, understanding how you got into that mess, how you stayed in that mess, how it wasn't your fault, and giving you the information to really get clear about nasty people. Because I find that when we talk about supply and triangulation and gaslighting and the silent treatment and all of these things, it's great. We go, oh yeah, I've been there. But it's only when you actually get it, something concrete and descriptions and in emotional terms, that you go, whoa, this was me. And emotionally it starts to shift.
True.
So there are 3 books that cover different aspects of healing from abuse.
Okay.
Oh, and
So
someone,
guys, yes, sorry, go ahead.
so one question I would love to answer. Oh, there are 2 questions. One, can antidepressants help them develop empathy? No, they're nasty. They're not depressed necessarily. It's, it's like wrong tool for the job. They don't want empathy. They don't have empathy. They get jealous of our pets because we value our pets. It distracts attention from them. I'm very big on pets. But perhaps the last question for today is,
Yes.
does karma get them in the end? And this is what we would all love when we're breaking our hearts, to know that one day they would suffer more than we've suffered. You just like to think of it. You get yours in the end, matey. But the truth is, I don't know whether it does or not. I think they can get through their whole life being as they are. But then you have to remember that being them is karma enough. That they are these horrible, joyless, dissatisfied people who can't even take.
Okay, this was not my internet or any technical issue. We were over 1 hour, and Instagram just cuts you off if you've been on for 1 hour. So that was the thing. We were over an hour. So I would want her to come back and just wrap it up, since our conversation was really intense, and so we're just waiting for Dr. Annie to come back and just wrap it up for us guys. You can't go, like, the limit is 1 hour for a live stream on Instagram. So that's why we got disconnected, because we had reached 1 hour. So I'm just waiting for, she's here, so I'll just bring her. We're just connecting with her, guys.
Hello.
Yes. So it wasn't a technical issue.
I think it was karma getting me for saying
No,
horrible
because
thing about narcissists.
no, because you see, once you hit 1 hour on Instagram live, they just disconnect you.
Yeah. Well, I
So
think it's
that's
a
what
good
happened.
time to stop.
Right, right.
Yes.
So guys, thanks for joining in. She's told you about her books. Please do go on her page and check her link out. You get a free sample from each book. You get one chapter from each book, and reach out to her. I think she would be a wonderful person to reach out to, because she's been through that herself, like she told. So I think she would be the right kind of person to reach out to. And if you want to come on board and share your story, reach out to me. I do live streams with survivors who come and share their story and help everybody around them heal and understand. So thank you so much once again. And I have so many questions coming in all of a sudden.
Yes. Oh, bless.
Thank you.
Yes. And to the person who says, should I tell my parents they're narcissists? No, not a good idea.
Oh my,
Yes. So
please
take
do.
care of yourselves. Go to my website, lots of freebies, free reports, lots of lovely information for you. And take care of yourselves. And thank you for having me on the live stream tonight. And it worked.
Yeah. Yes, it did work. Thank goodness.
Well, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.